Okay, welcome everybody to the Soapbox. My name is Hugh Bouchel. I'm here with Cher McCoy and Dan Webb, who has joined us today. Hi, everybody.
Hi.
Hi, thanks for joining us.
Yep, I think we're going to have a good session today. We're going to be talking about something that's going to be on the ballot here in the next election. And it's something that I think a lot of people don't understand what's going on. It's about redistricting commission amendment. And that's going to be a big deal as we move forward, especially here after the census is finished and we start redistricting and start doing things the right way, I hope. But so let's go ahead and get started here. Welcome everybody again. And Cher, if you want to go ahead and take over, want to introduce this guy here.
Okay, yes, Dan Webb lives with his wife, Rita, and they have 5 children. Yes, that's 5 children. Congratulations on that, Dan. And he's lives in Roanoke County, where he's the chairman of the GOP unit in the county in Roanoke. Pardon me. He also serves as Senator David Sulin's legal aide, and he has run several campaigns, federal and state, with Bob Goodlatte in 2016 and Congressman Ben Klein in 2018. So he is very much active politically. Welcome, Dan.
Thank you for having me.
Well, listen, Dan, why don't you tell what is this all? What is the ballot initiative and what's it all about?
Sure. Basically, what the constitutional amendment would do if it passes in November is it would create a bipartisan redistricting commission made up of 4 House of Delegates members, 4 state senators, and 8 citizen representatives. The 4 delegates would be 2 Republicans and 2 Democrats. The 4 senators would be 2 Republicans and 2 Democrats. And the 8 citizens would be 4 Republicans and 4 Democrats. So unlike in many other states where you have nonpartisan redistricting commissions, this would be a true bipartisan redistricting commission. So everything is on the table. Everyone kind of knows everyone's perspective. And you go from there. And after the census is complete, they will then be tasked, if the amendment passed, with drawing maps. In that scenario, they would draw a map, and once they agree to it internally and pass one, they would then send it to the legislature for ratification. If either body has an issue with it, or they say, hey, this isn't right, they have one more shot to send it back to the commission. The commission can do any tweaks that they might see, and then send it back to the legislature for ratification. If the legislature approves it, the maps become the maps. And these maps would include the congressional district maps, state senate, and House of Delegates. So it's a true bipartisan redistricting commission. And I say that because for many years, Republicans have been kind of cynical about redistricting commissions. We've seen different states take those upon where they create nonpartisan redistricting commissions. And from a Republican perspective, they usually see those nonpartisan commissions as being highly partisan, but people just don't have an R or D next to their name. They kind of pass themselves off as nonpartisan. Usually the maps end up, helping the existing establishment, generally, in California, Democrat control, things like that. So this is a true bipartisan commission, 50-50. I think it lays all the cards on the table. It's very transparent and fair. And I think in the long run, it helps prevent, backroom deals. The citizens will be able to be involved, and, the meetings will be transparent. And so it really kind of opens up the process. And hopefully, we could see more compact districts, especially in the state Senate, more compact, more geographically compact, and more communities of common interest represented. Instead of in the state Senate, you see a lot of maps that just kind of really meander around. So that's basically that. And to give you a little bit of backstory about how we are come to this point, in Virginia, to pass a constitutional amendment, it has to pass the legislature once. There needs to be an intervening election, and it has to pass the legislature again. So in 2019 rather, the Republicans were in control, and a House Republican introduced it on the House side, and a Senate Democrat introduced it on the Senate side. It passed the Senate with, I think, 39-1 votes. One Democrat voted no in the Senate. And in the House, it passed, I think, with 87 votes. I think there were 13 no votes. I think they were all Democrats, but 87 out of 100, it's not bad.
Not bad,
We had the
yeah.
intervening election, as you saw. The Democrats regained control of the state Senate and the House of Delegates. But this time was a little different. Now that Democrats were in control, they were kind of thinking, well, maybe, I don't know. Maybe we want to keep drawing the lines in the legislature. But to the Senate Democrats' credit, all but one stayed with their vote, their previous vote. It passed 38-2 in the Senate and went over the House. And at the very last moment where it could be considered, it passed the Privileges and Election Committee in the House with a handful of Democrat votes, went to the floor, and again passed with a handful of Democrat votes. I don't remember the total. I think 6 Democrats voted with the 45 Republicans to get it over the hump and get it passed and got it on the ballot for this November.
That's
Let me ask
great.
you one question on that I haven't asked you before, and that is, how is the decision made with the 8 citizens and the House and the Senate selection?
The caucus, the Republican caucus and the Democrat caucus in each body, the political organizations within the legislature, they would select their delegates who would represent them on the commission and their senators who would represent them on the commission. I believe for the citizens, they would submit a list of names, and I can't remember exactly who they would submit those to, and I have to go check on that. They would submit a list of names of qualified individuals, Republicans and then Democrat list, and they would choose from those 2 lists who would be on the citizen side. And it would be chaired by a citizen. It wouldn't be chaired by any of the legislators. So I can't remember exactly who makes that decision, but I know they submit lists and they go from there.
What about a third party? Because I noticed that the law says it's the 2 primary parties. Do third parties get a seat on the table? Or seat
As of now, no. Virginia law states that you're not a major party unless you reach 10% in a statewide election.
Okay.
So I don't think anything would trigger in that regard unless there was a third party that had 10% in a statewide election. So I'd have to see how that would jive with the current constitution amendment, drive with the 10% rule. But I don't, that's, it's possible. I don't think it's likely. But until that happens, I don't think that would be a bridge that there would need to be go over.
Right. Okay.
Do you think that there's any question about the second one that's going to be on the ballot with having any problems getting that passed?
The second constitutional amendment is it's basically a car tax exemption for 100% wounded, disabled veterans. I believe that's probably going to pass pretty overwhelming. It passed overwhelmingly out of the House and the Senate both times, and I think it's going to, I think it'll be passed with flying colors, 80% plus maybe. I think it'd probably surpass 80%.
And that one doesn't require as much explanation either.
No, it's pretty straightforward, and there have been a number of constitutional amendments that have passed in the last 10 years regarding wounded, disabled veterans, giving real estate tax exemptions to them and their spouses and things like that. So kind of follows, and those have all passed pretty overwhelmingly.
Yeah, I think this one will also. But one thing that I'm curious about is why are there people out there that don't like the first question? What's the opposite side of this thing?
So I'll go from a Republican and Democrat perspective.
Okay.
So, as I've been out and about explaining this and talking to people and encouraging folks to, support it, the Republican side is, I've heard a number of things. We need to keep our legislators accountable. I like to keep it in the legislature to keep them accountable. I don't think that this prohibits them from being held accountable because this legislature still has to pass the map, and you still have to take a vote on it. And the 2 members that are on that commission, you know who they are, or the 4 members or the 8 members. You know who they are. You know how they vote. You know what kind of maps they push. It's just like, so currently the way that the maps are drawn is the House Privileges and Elections Committee and the Senate Privileges and Elections Committee, they get together and they draw the map. And it's just those legislators that are on those committees, and then they send their map. If it passes the committee, usually, it could be a bipartisan basis, and maybe if they broke a deal, it's unanimous. And then it goes to the floor of the Senate and the House, and they pass and they go over. So really, you're just in my opinion, the only difference is you're kind of shrinking the number of legislators, and you're allowing citizen involvement, and it still allows for legislative accountability. From the Democratic side, the message has been somewhat contradictory. The biggest criticism I've heard from the Democrat side is if, say, that the commission can't come to an agreement or the legislature won't pass the commission's map, the fail-safe is the map drawing responsibility would go to the Supreme Court of Virginia. And the Supreme Court of Virginia would appoint 2 special masters to draw a map. They would appoint a Republican and a Democrat, given to them by a list of qualified individuals, I think, from each caucus. So if you look at in Virginia a couple years ago, the Supreme Court struck down a number of Virginia's congressional and state delegate maps. The Supreme Court appointed of the United States appointed a special master from, I think, Berkeley, and he went and he drew the new lines, and we got the Supreme Court. The lower court affirmed it, and we went on. So what this would do is, instead of having one guy or gal, it would have 2 people, 2 special masters. A lot of the Democrats have said, well, these Supreme Court justices have been appointed, all of them, in Republican majorities, and so they're hardcore Republicans. They're going to be partisan, and they'll just push through a map that is just all what the Republicans want. What they fail to note is that a number of these Supreme Court justices were appointed in recess appointments from people like Tim Kaine, Democrat governor that is now a U.S. senator. So I don't think that the Supreme Court is as partisan as some Democrat critics claim it is. I think that there's actually a minority of conservative Republicans on the Supreme Court, if I were to be honest, and really they're all qualified judges in my opinion. But hopefully, the goal is to avoid it having an impasse. The only way you have an impasse is if you have one side trying to push to an extreme.
Right, and the Supreme Court wouldn't be drawing new maps anyway. They'd just be working out the argument, right?
They would be approving a special master's map. The 2 special masters, when they draw a map, they would be approving those maps to see if they follow the constitutional standards for compactness and the mathematical equation for population.
Let me just read you one thing. Delegate Lamont Vagby said, I don't think it's better than what we have now. And in fact, I think it takes a step back because now at least we have African Americans at the table and in the room. I would be willing to bet this reform will lead to African Americans not even being involved in the process. Is that a problem?
I mean, I think that the Democrat caucus can appoint whoever they want to that commission, and some of the strongest defenders in the Senate, in the Virginia Senate, were Senators Locke and Lucas, and Senator Lionel Sproul, who are all longtime senior African American members of the state Senate who have a lot of respect, and they've been pushing it hard. And their counter argument has been that it does create more fairness and transparency. And Mr. Bagby, Delegate Bagby, is a respected member of the House of Delegates, and I think he's the chairman of the House Black Caucus, and they have great influence there. And I think that he should lobby for a representative of his choice to be on there to have African American representation. I think nothing prohibits that, and there's nothing that prohibits the House Democrats from appointing citizen representatives who are ethnically and diverse, men, women, you name it. I think there's nothing that prevents that. So the House Privileges Election Committee can be comprised however the Speaker of the House chooses. Right now, it is a diverse committee, and if the Speaker were different, it could not be. So I think it's kind of a moot point. I think they could appoint whoever they want to that commission.
Yeah, I think so.
Somebody that possibly is more concerned with transparency than maybe something else could argue they would want to know who these people are before they vote on them. Amendment.
Who the people are going to be appointed?
Before, that, yeah.
Yeah, I
I
don't.
know that's not possible, but
Yeah,
that would be
yeah, there's
ideal.
no way to do that.
It'd be tough to do that, but I think when the process comes up, there's going to be an ability for citizen input to each caucus about the citizens.
Okay.
I don't know, the lists will be, assuming the lists will be public, and if people have a problem, they should email their state senator and their delegate.
Okay.
It seems to me that most of the complaints are people who have had an advantage before that see themselves losing that advantage. Whether it be, because your party was the party in power and therefore you got to draw the lines, or you think you're going to be the party in power next time around, or you've got yourself a really nice district and you don't want anything to happen to it because, you could lose your seat. Those are the people that I see, for the most part, seem to be complaining about this. I think creating a more fair system will do huge things for the confidence of all the voters in the state. Knowing that their vote is just as fair as the vote of somebody else in another area.
Yeah, there's always that contention in a redistricting process. I mean, there's worries in whoever controls the Privileges and Elections Committee, how the maps are going to be drawn. And really, at the end of the day, with demographic changes and population growth in Virginia, maps always change, and there's always going to be someone, I don't know, that's going to feel like they're left with a short stick. It doesn't matter which process it is. I think this process allows, fair, transparent, no backroom deals, public input, and I think that's probably better than the wheeling and dealing that we might hear about in the previous processes.
I agree 100%. Now, you're probably keeping pretty busy this time of year, I would imagine. I would think, yeah.
Yeah, we're out working. Roanoke County Republican Committee is working hard to get our Republican ticket elected and educate folks on Amendment 1. So we've been standing at our registrar's office where they're early voting and handing out Republican sample ballots and door knocking and all that stuff. So
Yeah.
we've got 30 or something days left. I'm not sure exactly, but it's getting there.
And then you can go back to sleeping again. I got a question for you. What's the most important thing this election that we need to, what's the most important issue in the presidential election, let's say? What do you think?
What's the most important issue in the presidential election? I think it is, and as I determine and decide how to vote on that, is the massive administrative state that is implemented when a person is elected president. They appoint people to this gargantuan machine that is difficult to turn, and in a Democrat-controlled presidency, I think you see this massive, powerful administrative state that does everything it can to increase regulations, increase fees, increase taxes, make it more difficult for small businesses and farmers, and pursue political and cultural left agendas that we don't even know about. It's the behind-the-scenes things that really has a lot that happens. So that's the biggest thing in my opinion. And also, I think whatever happens is important that we retain this U.S. Senate.
I'll tell you what.
Because if President Trump is reelected, we can continue nominating good conservative judges, and if he's not, then we need a backstop to prevent this wave, this really pendulum swing of kind of leftism that seems to be kind of taken over the Democratic Party, and will probably be guiding Vice President Biden's decisions.
Yeah, we seem to think alike, and I had the same thought, because if we get the Supreme Court justice approved by the Senate, and then if we in fact can hold the Senate, man, I would like to see President Trump win. But if he doesn't win, if we still have the Senate and we got the Supreme Court, or at least people on the Supreme Court who think before they make decisions, then in fact I think would be okay. Be okay until the next election anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I wouldn't mind having the House back either.
That would be great. Get some legislation done.
I'd like to have the Virginia legislature back again.
Oh yeah.
And if this amendment passes, we'll see new maps in early spring, and they'll, we'll have an idea of what the new districts will look like and get all reacclimated to the new lines. So,
Well, wait,
Has there been any more announced running for governor in the last week?
I have not, the governor's race has not been on my radar to the extent I've been kind of nose to the grindstone.
Rick Cox was the last one that I heard.
Yep. Delegate Cox has announced, or he's intimating that he plans to run, but doesn't plan to announce until after November. Yeah, I really have just been focusing on the current amendment and, election. We'll get to the governor's race when it comes.
well, listen, I assume Cher told you that on the Soapbox, you get your own private 3 minutes at the end here to talk about whatever you want to. Did she tell you that?
She mentioned it. I didn't know if it was me or you guys get to talk about
No, it's
Oh,
you.
it's you.
Yeah,
Oh.
the Soapbox belongs to you today.
Yes.
And so what we'll do here, if you're ready to go, Cher, are you ready for it? Okay.
I'm ready.
Okay.
Whatever
You
you
got
want to talk about, Dan.
Any subjects? Any subjects?
Any subject, anything you want. You got a
All right.
Soapbox for 3 minutes, okay? It's all yours.
He talked about his dogs. So
Let's see if I can do it. Well, as a lifelong Jaguars fan, I've lived a life of pain and suffering. And it's my deep hope that young Gardner Minshew can get together a good offensive passing attack, and that you really decimated defense can maybe string together a few wins. I'd like to get to 5 wins this season. We'll see if that happens, but it's my life's misery to spend every Sunday with, unrequited hopes of a victory, and only to see it just fall through my hands like water. So I don't have 3 minutes on that, but that's my soapbox.
Okay. Well, listen, we appreciate you coming on the show today, and for your candor and for such an informative session. Because I tell you what, I think a lot of people do not understand that, and we appreciate your time during this busy season.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming, Dan. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Cher, for inviting me.
You're welcome.
Thanks. We'll see you folks. Everybody take care.
Have a good day.
Till next time.